Yeah. Please tell me that I can't, that I won't, that I fail, that I'll never make it out, yeah. Please tell me all the bad, never good, fill my head full of every single doubt, yeah. Please say any negative thoughts, I pop off when I hear people say I cannot. I get off to the thought of proving everyone wrong, I won't stop to the top, so you better back off and get lost. I'ma stay loud, stay proud, never running out, never heading south. I'll be spreading out, call it word of mouth, can't put me down, I'll be getting loud. You can have your doubts, not what I'm about, have your fucking clout. It be raining now, I keep making sound, go another round, bitch I'm legend bound, can't stop me now. You don't wanna fuck with me, a slow burn like a disease.
What is going on, everyone? And in this video I'll be giving you my UFC 276 main card predictions for the upcoming event taking place this Saturday, July 2nd, 2022, Adesanya versus Cannonier. And this is going to be a really good card. Obviously UFC fight week, that's always exciting. In the previous event, wasn't too happy with that main event. I thought it could have gone that way for Tsarukyan. Went 7-5, so obviously not bad at all. But you know, if Tsarukyan would have won, and then obviously if Alan Baudot would have won, that would have been a lot better. Baudot, I think he would have won, but it was just sloppy, and obviously Parisian was able to take him down, and it's just unfortunate. Baudot is just not able to really do anything. But overall, pretty solid UFC fight card, but I did think Tsarukyan did enough to get the victory there. But that's what happens when you got these split decisions and the judges and all that. So it's unfortunate, but either way, 7-5, I'll take it. And so we'll go ahead and talk about this main card, and I think it's gonna be a pretty good one. I think top to bottom to top, it's a pretty solid UFC card. You don't really see too many of these where like the whole entire card has some names on it, and obviously it's fight week and all that, but we'll see if Donald Cerrone ends up fighting for the third time, so we'll have to see if that happens. But let's go ahead and jump into the first fight on the main card. So in the first fight on the main card, we have Pedro the Young Punisher Munhoz, 19-7, 1-0 contest, taking on Sugar Sean O'Malley, 15-1. This is an exciting fight because this is by far the best step up in competition for Sean O'Malley, coming off of a couple wins over people that I think most, like Munhoz would probably beat him too, right? You have him coming off of a win over Julian Paiva, KO TKO round number 1, Chris Moutinho round 3 KO TKO. Wins that he just had to get, right? It's not necessarily like, oh wow, it's impressive or anything like that, in my opinion, in comparison to like some of the guys Munhoz has been fighting. Munhoz, he's gonna be definitely the toughest competition, because even Thomas Almeida, O'Malley obviously took care of him, but Almeida, all the damage he took and all that, he's just really not the same that he was. And then he lost to Marlon Vera, whether or not with the leg injury and all that stuff. I thought Sean O'Malley was looking pretty decent though against Vera, so I won't really take too much away from that. So I'd like to see that fight get ran back eventually. Took out Eddie Wineland, but you got to take out Eddie Wineland. So yeah, he hasn't really fought like someone like Pedro Munhoz outside of Marlon Vera, I guess you could say. And I think stylistically speaking, this is kind of O'Malley's fight to lose, because Munhoz is one of these guys who's going to load up on a lot of these shots, right? He's going to load up on every strike that he throws. He's going to load up on the leg kicks, and if you let him land those leg kicks, that could be concerning. But with how Sean O'Malley's moving in and out, I really don't see that being a problem here. Dominic Cruz, he did get dropped twice against Pedro Munhoz, but he was eventually able to come back because Munhoz really wasn't. I think after Munhoz dropped Cruz a couple times, he kind of tunnel vision for the knockout, I think, and that's kind of his style though, right? He's looking for that big, wild, big hook shots, take you out, and then see what he can do. Maybe go for a submission if he drops you on the floor. But overall, he's more of a guy who, he's not the most technical guy. He's willing to trade in there. He'll start throwing down just to see what happens. And against someone like Sean O'Malley, O'Malley's not really gonna oblige to that. He's not really gonna go for that, and that could be a problem for Pedro Munhoz. I think Pedro Munhoz has a close the distance early on. The longer this fight goes on, the more likely Sean O'Malley's gonna kind of just keep piecing him up. As long as his leg stays, like I said, maybe he doesn't check the leg kicks or something, and he gets kind of disrupted with that. But I think overall O'Malley's gonna snipe him. He's gonna land the heavy. He's gonna land the quicker shots. He's gonna bait Munhoz in with a lot of different feints. He's gonna be feinting the whole entire time. And Munhoz, he comes in, throws some big hooks, overextends, boom, drop in that right hand, and then he's hurting him and stuff. And I really think O'Malley's gonna want to finish him here because, again, this is outside of Vera, probably your toughest fight. And so, if you take him to like a really kind of not really an exciting decision victory, it might not rub everyone the right way. Whereas if he's able to finish Munoz, who he's a very tough guy, Cruz was able to finish him, Aldo wasn't able to finish him, Edgar wasn't able to finish him, Aljamain Sterling, the champion, wasn't able to finish him. And so he's a tough guy to finish, right? So if O'Malley's able to finish him here, it's going to look really good for O'Malley. And so I'm expecting Sean O'Malley, if he wins, to either do it pretty dominantly via decision, or he's definitely going to try to go for that knockout. And that's the one thing that we saw O'Malley, for example, in his fight against in his fight against Thomas Almeida, where he dropped him multiple times, but then he kind of hesitated to go in. I think in this fight he needs to just kill him, right? So if he drops him or something, he has to get in there and try to destroy him, and he can't just like toy around with him. Even though I know he wants that kind of like that highlight stuff, but he's got to go in there, smash him, and do it fairly quickly, or like I said, beat him up for 3 rounds. And then Munoz, he's gonna have to do something early on, or he's gonna start to get picked apart pretty much. So I know Munoz can definitely land something here. Maybe he can take him down. Not take him down, but like maybe if Munoz is able to drop him with a leg kick or something like that, he can get his neck or he can go for a submission. But I just think Sean O'Malley's going to be picking him apart. And, I'll go for a finish on this one, just because I think that's what O'Malley needs to do. He needs to do something impressive here to, get his stock going up even more. So I'm gonna go Sean O'Malley. It's gonna be a tough fight for Sean O'Malley, but I'm gonna take it a win by round 2 KO TKO. Let's move on into the second fight on the main card, and obviously it was supposed to be Miesha Tate in the second fight, or somewhere here on the main card, but that against Lauren Murphy, but that fight fell out. So unfortunately, we have to have, well, not unfortunately, but Robbie Lawler is coming in here against Bryan Barberena, and I believe there'll be the second fight on the main card. This is going to be an exciting fight as well. This is a pretty solid fight to move up to the main card. Robbie Ruthless Lawler, 29-15, 1-0 contest, taking on Bam Bam Bryan Barberena, 17-8. Lawler, obviously veteran in the game. He's been around for a long time. He's fought the best guys in the welterweight division. Barberena, I would say, as far as his history has gone, for Lawler at least, this is probably a step down in competition in comparison to who he's probably used to fighting. Lawler's kind of used to fighting top level guys. You could say he kind of declined when he lost to Neil Magny, and then they gave him Nick Diaz, and then that fight, Nick Diaz pretty much just gave up. Really wasn't in shape, in my opinion. Was kind of just there to show up for the money, do what he could do, but overall, you could just tell Lawler was gonna probably beat his ass once you saw like how they both looked. Lawler's looking jacked like always, and he just stayed on top of him and was able to be the more aggressive fighter. And just land the harder shots and eventually break him down. And so they're giving him someone like Bryan Barberena, which I think, you saw Barberena's last fight, right? He's also not necessarily the best guy in the world. He's definitely fought the best guys in this division, but pretty much every time he fights a good guy, he's losing. Yes, he beat Matt Brown in the last fight, but it was a pretty close split decision. He definitely came back in the end of it. He eats some nasty shots, though, and that's the problem with Barberena, is like, this dude is like, he'll definitely get clipped, and that's a little concerning in this fight. But I do think for Bryan Barberena, if he can fight back against Lawler, mix it up, make it a war, he might be able to land something on Lawler here. Lawler's tough, and Lawler's gonna be happy to kind of brawl with him probably as well, stand in the pocket, go toe to toe. And at that point, I think it's more of like a coin flip, because you never know, right? Lawler could get just absolutely destroyed if Barberena is able to land some really nasty elbows in close. Maybe Lawler goes for a takedown here or there, because Barberena also doesn't have the best takedown defense. But I think more likely it'll be standing, and I think at that point it's just pretty much a war. You've got Lawler coming off those 4 losses, basically 4 losses. I mean, Ben Askren, if you don't want to say he tapped or whatever, but Nick Diaz, like, you gotta be beating Nick Diaz at this point, as especially he came off of that big lengthy vacation, if you want to call it like that. So I guess it's a pretty good fight for Lawler to see what he can look like against someone who's still relatively in the game and has also fought some pretty good guys. And like I said, the last fight against Matt Brown, that was a pretty good battle. and so I think this one's probably going to be a battle too. It'll probably be I could see it being another split decision. Both guys are kind of giving their all, and we'll have to see who's able to survive. Maybe Lawler just is able to break him down, but I don't know. I just don't want to count on Barberena because I think a lot of people thought he was going to lose against Matt Brown. And then obviously he's able to win a split decision there. So we'll have to see what he looks like. But fighting a guy like Robbie Lawler, he talked about, I guess he met him at UFC. He met him at a fight week or whatever. So it's like crazy to think that he's fighting him at a UFC fight week. So he's definitely fighting a guy who he looked up to, and I think that's gonna make for a great fight and a close fight as well. So I'm gonna go Bryan Barberena. I'm not too high in Robbie Lawler anymore. I just think he's kind of, he's got probably a couple more fights. I don't really think he's gonna be fighting for the title anytime soon or anything like that. So I think his days of like fighting for the title are kind of over. And so yeah, I'm expecting an exciting fight, but I'm gonna go Bryan Barberena to win against Robbie Lawler. I'll take him to win by decision. Move on into the third fight on the main card. We have a pretty decent fight. We have Sean Strickland taking on Alex Pereira. 25-3 for Strickland. 2-0. Well, definitely not 2-0, but I think it's what let's see. For Sean Strickland, yeah, 5-1. Definitely not 2-0. So for Sean Strickland, he's one of the, he's another guy who's fight very technical, very safe. He doesn't, I wouldn't say he's really going for anything crazy. He's content with just winning decisions. In his last fight against Jack Hermanson, split decision. He stands in the pocket, tries to box people up. He's not one of these guys brawling or anything like that. He's a very safe fighter. Goes for the leg kicks. Pretty good takedown defense. Has a ground game, but he's not really taking the fight to the ground. I guess like if he decided to get the fight to the ground, he'd probably have the advantage against Alex Pereira, at least in this fight. The issue here though is that when you look at the one time, like in the past couple, not the couple, but back when he fought Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos, he got KO'd in the first round via a kick. And I guess I got like Pereira, who's definitely gonna try to take his head off. That's a little concerning here. And when you look at who he's fought, right? He's fought Uriah Hall, Strickland's fought Uriah Hall, Krzysztof Jotko, Brendan Allen, Jack Marshman, Nordine Talib. Not the best guys really in this division, let alone, some of them aren't even in the UFC anymore. So when you think about that, yes, Alex Pereira doesn't have like a multitude of experience inside the UFC, but he obviously has that kickboxing background, and he's not a guy you want to be trading shots with in close or at all, to be honest. So I think Sean Strickland, the smart way to do this would be to take him down, if not immediately, and go for some sort of submission and try to do it that way, try to drown him out. Whereas Pereira is going to definitely try to rip his head off early on. He's going to try to be setting up kicks. He's going to just try to deep kick to the body, keep that distance. But yeah, it's a sketchy thing because I do think Strickland probably hasn't fought a good striker like Pereira has in like his past, 6 fights, right? So it'll be interesting to see whether or not Strickland's going to go immediately for those takedowns, or is he going to want to keep it standing? Or is he going to try to get in the pocket and trade with him and close that distance off and have some success there? It remains to be seen, and we'll have to see. But I do think Pereira is going to go for those kicks right off the bat. He's going to try to be aggressive. He's going to get in his face. He's going to be trying to land some bombs. I do worry about Pereira if he does start getting taken down. What's going to happen to his cardio? But I think Pereira is going to have the better shots, even the better power, right? So whereas Strickland might have to land 5 shots to do something, Pereira's only going to have to land 1 big shot, and it could alter the entire fight. So that's a little, and he's always going to be dangerous, even if he does get taken down or whatnot. And that's a little bit concerning because I think Strickland, he hasn't really shown like that urgency to finish fights. And we saw that against Hermanson where like, you got to put this dude away, right? You can't just get on your bicycle and land the most significant strikes and think like, oh, I'm going to be the next champion. Like, it's really not going to work like that, right? So yeah, I like Alex Pereira on this one. I just feel like Strickland might actually be winning this fight, and then he just kind of lets it go, and then next thing you know, Pereira is able to get him out of there. And I think early on it's a 3-round fight. I think early on we're really gonna see who's gonna be the better fighter. I don't think it's like one of those things. Oh, it's a war or something. No, I think early on we'll see if Pereira can keep the fight standing and just kill him. So yeah, I'm gonna go Alex Pereira to defeat Sean Strickland. Taking a win by KO TKO in round number 1. And then move on into the co-main event of the evening. We have Alexander Volkanovski, the champion, taking on Max Holloway. Volkanovski is 24-1, and then Holloway is 23-6. The great versus blessed. Obviously, Volkanovski, these guys have fought 3 times. You could argue, the first fight went to Volkanovski, second fight went to Max Holloway, and then, we'll have to see the third fight, obviously. But, Volkanovski won both fights. After watching the second fight, I really do think that it was like a 3-2 kind of thing going on there. So I did think Holloway did enough to get the victory in that one. But again, you let it go to the judges, and it's pretty much up to them to decide. This could be another I really do think this is going to be another close fight. I don't really see one of these guys going out there getting absolutely destroyed unless one of them just looks completely different than they have. Holloway, he was doing better with the leg kicks in the second fight, and then he was able to kind of just start lighting him up, right? He was lighting up Volkanovski. He was doing, by far the most damage, I think, right? He was doing a lot more damage, and Volkanovski did get a little, 3 takedowns in that fight, but Holloway popped right back up, and he was able to get back in his face and start landing some good shots. So, I really did think Holloway did enough. Volkanovski is still a tough bastard, and he closes distance well. He's able to slam in that overhand right. He feints his way in, and because he has to, right, with his height disadvantage, his reach but he has a long reach too. So it's like interesting that he actually has the longer reach, but he's just a shorter guy, and so he finds his way to get inside and do his thing. This one I think is a war again. I really do. We saw Volkanovski survive just like an insane guillotine against Bryan Ortega. Was able to kill him. 214 significant strikes in comparison to Ortega's 88 significant strikes. So although he almost did get submitted, he was able to take that fight pretty much over and kill him. Against Chain Sung-jung, same thing, 138 significant strikes to Chain Sung-jung's 48 significant strikes. So again, he was able to kill him, get those takedowns, and do a lot with that. And he finished him pretty much TKO'd on the feet. Herb Dean was like, oh, okay, I've seen enough of that, right? He's about to kill him. And so I think it's the best guys in this division. Both guys are talking about moving on to the next division, so I don't really know where their heads are at necessarily. Regardless of who wins or who loses, maybe they both go to the lightweight. Who knows, right? And now for Max Holloway, he's coming off that, he lost to Volkanovski twice, then he beat the shit out of Calvin Kattar. And that was just a disgusting fight, right? He's just killing him. 445 significant strikes in comparison to Kattar's 133. So it just outclassed him on the feet and just brutal, just nasty. How Kattar was even able to survive that remains to be seen. And then he took on Yair Rodriguez, 220 significant strikes to Rodriguez's 159 strikes. And Max Holloway in that fight got 3 takedowns in comparison to Rodriguez's 1 takedown. And so for that fight, Max Holloway, I think a lot of people were saying that, like, they didn't really like how he looked in that fight and all that. But, Rodriguez, when you look at it, what was he coming off of, about, was that 2020? So, like, almost 2 years. Rodriguez was coming off of that layoff. I don't really think too badly of Max Holloway in that fight for his performance. Actually, I think he was taking on a guy who isn't going to take him down. I think Rodriguez is a very tough striker as well, and he gave it his all in that fight. And they pretty much were able to go toe to toe, and Holloway was still able to kind of beat him up. But it was a tough fight for Holloway because Rodriguez is a nasty striker. So I wouldn't really take away too much from Holloway and be like, oh, he didn't look good in that fight. No, I mean, he fought a really top level contender, and I think he did pretty decent, and he got over 200 significant strikes. So I really wouldn't call that a bad performance, if anything. And he even got 3 takedowns. Now, I don't think he's getting any takedowns against Volkanovski, but I do think Volkanovski's striking has definitely improved. But at the same time, Holloway's nasty, right? And he can definitely improve, and he has a really great judge of distance, and he has a really great chin. So again, I don't think anyone's getting knocked out here. I think if Holloway gets taken down, he pops back up, and I think it's just another close fight, and it's just really going to depend on who lands the better shots. And maybe Holloway doesn't get taken down 3 times, he gets taken down 1 time, right? And then he gets a split decision, or maybe Volkanovski is able to take him down more this time. Even if Holloway pops back up, he still took him down 5 times, right? I don't know. It's gonna have to. We're really gonna have to see, or maybe one of these guys gets a little bit too careless because they're like, this is the 3rd time fighting. Let me try something new, and then next thing you know, they do get knocked out or something. But I still think Holloway is just so aggressive, and I do think he can drop him too. Maybe not. See, that's I think it's just gonna be one thing that someone he didn't do last time, and if Holloway is able to get that one knockdown or something, or Volkanovski lands a little bit more, or maybe Volkanovski gets the knockdown, right? It's really gonna just be it's gonna be so close. It'll go to the judges. So I'm gonna go Holloway. I think I picked Holloway all 3 times, and so I'll just go out on my loss, right? If I pick wrong 3 times in a row, I did think Holloway won last time, so. Either way, though, it's going to be a pretty great fight, and excited to watch it. So I'm going to go Max Bless Holloway to beat Alexander the Great Volkanovski. I'll take it a win by decision. And move on into the main event of the evening. We have the champion Israel Adesanya, the middleweight champion, the last style bender, 22-1, taking on Jared, the Killer Gorilla, Cannonier, 15-5. For Israel Adesanya, just basically like a new age Anderson Silva. Crazy kicking game, crazy Muay Thai. Just like this dude's literally like one of the most technical strikers inside of the UFC. Always setting something up, precision sniper, going for like the most craziest attacks, just trying to knock people out. Now, outside of losing to Jan Blachowicz in a completely different division, because he got taken down, and that's still one thing that I think he's improving on. Because even against Marvin Vettori, which not that Vettori was able to do anything with the takedowns, but he did get taken down 4 times against Marvin Vettori. When he fought Robert Whittaker, he got taken down 4 times as well. So it's not necessarily that like he's stopping the takedowns completely. He's still getting taken down. It's just that he's able to pop back up or not really have anything happen when he's getting taken down. And maybe someone like Jan Blachowicz, a little too big for him. Maybe if they fought again in a not in the Apex, maybe it'd be a different fight, but we'll have to see. Jared Cannonier, nasty power, nasty leg kick power as well. He's one of these guys who's gonna come in and close that distance and just try to land some big shots. I think if Cannonier is smart, he's gonna try to attack the legs of Adesanya, see if he can take away his movement, see if he can take away his kicking game. Now that's easier said than done because Cannonier is gonna have to close that distance, and if Adesanya is baiting him in, he could catch him with something if Cannonier gets too reckless. And if you look at Cannonier, he did get dropped by Derek Brunson in this last fight. So it's one of those things as well where Cannonier, Brunson's not necessarily the best guy in the world as far as his hands. And so for Cannonier to get dropped by him, maybe got a little bit careless. And against Adesanya, he can't make any of those mistakes because Adesanya is not Derek Brunson. I wouldn't also be surprised too if Cannonier is able to get a takedown. Maybe he goes for a takedown, and if he's not even going for takedowns, maybe he presses him up against the fence, tries to land those big elbows in close. I think I would try to do something like that. And again, a lot of this stuff, when you're fighting a guy like a champion, you can't be doing it in the 4th and 5th round. You got to do that shit early. You got to disrupt you just got to disrupt the flow of the champion and show like, oh shit, I'm gonna win this fight, right? So I would expect Cannonier to close the distance, clinch, land elbows. Just do his best to just shut stuff down early on. Because the moment Adesanya gets going, he's going to be picking him apart eventually. I can just see it. Because Adesanya can land his own leg kicks. He can go to the head, go to the body, use a really snappy jab, really effectively just start snipe shotting him, doing a lot of damage over the course of the rounds, go for the calf kick. And that's just going to pretty much, Adesanya is not necessarily going to, I think obviously if Cannonier is able to land effectively, he's gonna have a lot more success with just a little bit of shots. So like Cannonier's gonna only have to land 2 shots, whereas Adesanya is gonna have to land 6, 7 shots and pick him apart because Cannonier is just so powerful. And so we'll really have to see what's gonna happen with Cannonier and whether or not he can shut Adesanya down. Now no one's really been able to do that, like I said, outside of Jan Blachowicz, and even Jan Blachowicz didn't really. It wasn't necessarily the most impressive thing we've seen. It was more of just, he took him down and Adesanya couldn't get back up. And the other thing too is Cannonier did lose against Robert Whittaker, so Adesanya finished Robert Whittaker once and then beat him by decision in the second fight. So, MMA math isn't really a thing, but it's something to keep an eye on. And for Adesanya, you really got to take this guy out. I really don't see Cannonier winning a decision here. I think it's more of like, maybe he just destroys his lead leg or elbows him in the clinch and Adesanya's wobbled or something crazy like that. And then, he takes him down and starts slamming elbows and TKOs him. And I think it would be pretty interesting to see Cannonier as a champion, right? Because that would really mix up things in the middleweight division. But yeah, especially because he lost to Robert Whittaker. So, like, would Whittaker fight him? It opens up more opportunities for people to come in and fight the champion. But with that being said, I got to go with the champion, Adesanya. I think he just is going to have more ways to win. He doesn't have to just land one big powerful shot early on or just go after the legs of Cannonier. I think he can slowly pick apart Cannonier to win a pretty decisive decision. And if he's picking him apart, Cannonier might be slowing down a little bit just because he's not used to getting that kind of volume on him. And Adesanya can kind of do it that way. Or Adesanya can go to the legs, or he can go to the body, or he can go to the head. And over the third, fourth round, he can maybe TKO him if Cannonier is getting hurt enough. And or Adesanya could flash and knock him out, right? That can happen as well. We saw that against Derek Brunson. If Derek Brunson can drop him, pretty sure Adesanya can drop him. So with that being said, I have to go Adesanya. I'll take it to get a finish here. So I'm gonna go Israel Adesanya to defeat Jared Cannonier. I'll take it to win by round 4 KO TKO. And that'll do it, guys, for my UFC 276 main card predictions for the upcoming event taking place July 2nd, 2022. This is going to be one hell of a card. Top, even the prelims, early prelims, whatever. Really excited for it. Uriah Hall's taking on Andre Muniz. That'll be an exciting fight, and that's just on the prelims. And then obviously moving Lawler up, you got Brad Tavares, Brad Riddell, Jim Miller hopefully taking on Donald Cerrone, Ian Gary McGarry. That's an exciting fight as well. So we'll have to see how it plays out, but I do think this card is pretty solid. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching. Leave your comments down below. Tell me who you're picking. You know what? I'll see you guys in the next video.